I work in the market research industry, and basically, to make a living in the research industry, you have to work for the largest companies because they're the ones who have money to spend on research. So essentially, then, kind of from a bird's eye view, I'm working for these billion-dollar companies and trying to help them retain their billions of dollars and helping them earn more billions of dollars by providing them information and learning and that kind of thing. So it kind of at face value doesn't really feel like noble work, and I've been criticized for my being a capitalist and feeding the man and that sort of thing. And I've certainly felt some of that and struggled with kind of my calling as well. And I feel like I've been just these videos have just been calling out all my career mistakes, if you will. So early in my career, I went to graduate school and was newly married and kind of starting out, and very quickly took on a living to work mentality and was traveling a fair amount, working long hours, and really when it came down to any time conflict of any sort between work and anything else, work was the one that was taking priority and precedent. And as my family continued to grow, so we had kids, we have 4 now, and as I started to break down, just kind of I was getting burnt out. I shifted to more of a, the pendulum swung back the other way, if you will, and I adopted very much so a work to live approach, which was great, and for my workaholism, it was good for my family, but the struggle was then, how do I do a good job at my job? What's the incentive? What's the motivation? It was much harder to invest and do a good job on that. And it wasn't until I started to get involved fairly recently with Christians in Commerce that I became exposed to the idea of working for our Father. And that really has changed my perspective and helped me kind of approach and try to find that balance between the two. Kind of how do you be a good employee and worker and a good father and husband at the same time on a day-to-day and minute-by-minute basis. So there are a couple of examples where this has played out for me that I just want to share. So I'm a big picture kind of person. If I want to brag about myself, I'd call myself strategic. And just in terms of my mindset, and so the most kind of torturous type of work for me is monotonous, kind of repetitive. Like Henry Ford and I would not have gotten along at all for that reason. And there was a project recently that involved showing a lot of different people a lot of different kind of concepts or packages. So this was not a project I was leading, but I said, actually Molly, who's here, this was her project. So they could use an extra set of hands, so I volunteered to come early in the morning, kind of help out, not knowing what I was signing up for. And basically what it amounted to is there was a stack of papers about this big that needed to be sorted, stapled, collated, and what amounted to be 2 hours of that, which is, for me, cruel and unusual punishment. So I started in, and within a short period of time, that torture feeling was kind of starting to overtake me. And then I remembered that I am working for my Father. This is his purpose for me, and in so doing, by following kind of his will for my life in this moment, stapling and sorting these papers, this is noble work. And it completely changed my outlook. So that was about 3 minutes into it. So 2 hours later, it filled my heart to have done this and it wasn't that hard because of my perspective just had been turned on its head. Another situation that happens very often is I'm a procrastinator. I have many flaws. So I'm a procrastinator, and I'm quick to seek out distractions. So usually this is like Twitter or Facebook or LinkedIn, if I want to make it seem like I'm working. And where I struggle most, I think, with it, the urgent stuff that needs to get done, I'm usually fairly good at kind of buckling down and doing, but it's the longer term kind of nice to do things, or things that maybe due in 2 weeks from now, that when I finally do have time to kind of, because I'm done with my urgent stuff, and I should then move on to these to-do items that aren't as critical but still need to get done, I find it very easy to resort to filling my time with those other distractions versus kind of buckling down and doing it. And as a result of then again, my accountability is to God, and He's given me this time and this talent to do these things. And it's not that I always remember to think about this, but every time I do, it makes it much, much easier to avoid those distractions and buckle down and kind of get those long-term to-dos done. So essentially for me, my work hasn't changed. I'm still in my same for-profit, kind of serving the billion-dollar companies, but my perspective on what I'm doing and kind of how I approach these tasks has been really impacted by just the mindset shift of, instead of working for myself or working to provide for my family, to actually working for my Father.